Thanks for listening to the Coaching Academy podcast on the Calloway Football Network. Relevant, educational, entertaining. Coach Calloway talking all things football.
Welcome to the Coaching Academy podcast. I'm Coach Calloway. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a great program for you today on leadership. So we're going to be discussing leadership and how to strengthen a struggling team. And I think it has a broad appeal and really has a lot of benefit to anybody in a leadership position, not just the coaching community. So we really hope that you get a chance. You can share the podcast for us today and hit that share icon or button and put it on your social media platforms. I think it can be beneficial to a lot of people. I tell you, we're really excited about all the great things going on around here at the Calloway Football Network and at CallowayFootball.com. Our mission and commitment is simple. We want to bring you relevant, educational, and entertaining content, and we really want you to engage with us. We want to hear from you. Go out to YouTube and watch us on YouTube at the Calloway Football Network. You can download us on iTunes or Stitcher Radio and hit that 5-star rating and give us a high rating. We would appreciate that. You can connect with us and message us through Twitter at Calloway FB is our Twitter handle. That's at Calloway, CALLOWAYFB. Or old-fashioned, you can just send us an email at coach@CallowayFootball.com. But again, I think we have a powerful program on leadership, and we know it's going to bring a lot of benefit to you. So let's get it rolling. So let's get started. Let's start with 3 things that are, I think, foundational to a good leader. Number 1, to be a good leader, you must be a student. Always be willing to learn and listen. So to be a good leader, be a good student, always be willing to learn and listen. As a coach, that is what a membership at CallowayFootball.com will give you, of course. It helps you stay on top of your game with educational resources for coaches. So if you're a coach, go out to the website and tap into our training center out there. It will certainly help you be a student of the game. The foundation of a good leader always starts with that. We have got to be willing to be a student and always seeking to improve, to get better, and to educate ourselves. Second thing, we must care about and love those who we lead. If we don't care about and love the people that we're leading, we're not going to be an effective or a good leader. And number 3, we must always lead by example. So the 3 things that I think are foundational to being a good leader: number 1, be a student. Number 2, care about and love those who you lead. And of course, lead by example. So let's dig in just a little bit about being a student. Your ability to learn is one of the most important qualities that any leader will have. Leaders are learners. I believe that. I know that without a doubt, that leaders are learners. If you're not willing to stay on top and continue to educate yourself and learn, you're not going to be an effective leader. Even if you've been a coach or a business leader for 40 plus years, you should always be willing and able to put yourself in a learning environment. Number 2, care about those that you lead. You don't need a title or a certain position or power in order to be a leader. You just got to care about those who you're leading. And what you need is trust from those who you lead. So to be a good leader, you need to care about them, and so that you build trust. People will always follow someone with a heart a lot faster than they will follow someone with just a title. So care about those who you lead. And then lead by example. Be the type of leader that you would want to follow. Be the example of leader that you follow or that you would want to follow. I want to read a quote from Coach John Wooden. Coach John Wooden, of course, one of the best basketball coaches of our time. He said, quote, "The most powerful leadership tool you have is your own personal example." Very powerful quote. What example are we setting as leaders? As we say in the football business, we must be honest with ourselves and we must self-scout. So honestly analyze the example that you set as a leader for your team, for your business, for your group of people that you're leading, and make sure that you're always setting an example. The most powerful leadership tool that we have is our own personal example. Words of wisdom from Coach Wooden. So we're going to talk about leadership and how to strengthen a struggling team. If you want to be incrementally better, you can be competitive. If you want to be exponentially better, you need to be a team. I want to say that again. If you want to be incrementally better, be competitive, meaning it's all about you, make it about you, and that's all that you're really concerned about. If you want to be exponentially better, be a team. There's no limit to what you can accomplish when it doesn't matter who gets the credit. So we all know that there's nothing like playing or coaching or leading a winning team, whether it's on a sports field or in a place of business. If you've ever been a part of a team with very talented people, where there's a clear vision, a defined strategy, where people are passionate about what they're doing and everyone is using their gifts to make a difference, that is a place you're going to love to work and you're going to love to be a part of. And there are a few things more fun than being on a passionate, focused, mission, team-oriented, driven team. On the other hand, there are a few more frustrating things than being on an apathetic, lazy, disengaged, or selfish team. Selfishness can and will destroy a talented group. So it really doesn't matter how much talent you have on your team or around you if selfishness creeps in. So are you a part of a team that is passionate, focused, and team-driven, or are you a part of a team that is apathetic, lazy, disengaged, and selfish? Unfortunately, the latter is the more common than the former. It is common today to be on teams where everyone is just kind of existing. They just kind of exist, and they just kind of go through the motions. There's selfishness, there's disengagement, there's laziness. That seems to creep in to teams more than the opposite of staying passionate, staying focused, staying team-driven. People are just going to do their jobs, but are not going to do their job with others in mind, and they're not working together towards a common vision or priority or goal. So that is what we commonly see on a struggling team. You will see that. A struggling team always lacks vision. They have team members that are disengaged or disencouraged. They have a culture that really is unhealthy, or in many cases, even they go from being unhealthy to toxic cultures and environments on unsuccessful or struggling teams. So what happens? Well, when you're in an environment like that, problems start to go unaddressed. And when problems go unaddressed, people will then deflect responsibility. They will resist accountability. They will avoid conflict. They'll start to withhold trust. And these are all negative things that lead towards unhealthy, unsuccessful, unproductive teams. And when you get to a point where the team goals don't matter anymore and people on the team are just going into survival mode and worried about getting their task done or their job done and really not passionate about the ultimate team goal, it becomes no fun at all, of course, to be part of a team like that. So let's talk about teamwork. What is teamwork? Well, I want to give you a quote from Andrew Carnegie, who said, quote, "Teamwork is the ability to work together towards a common vision. It is the fuel that enables common people to achieve uncommon results." Love that line. Teamwork is the ability to work towards a common vision. It is the fuel that enables common people to achieve uncommon results. If you ask me to boil it down, it is really, to its simplest form, it comes down to this. What is a team? I would tell it to you this way. A team is a group of people that are gathered to reach a common goal. On a team, everyone has to be in agreement that together as a group, we will work together to reach a common goal. That is what a team is to me in its simplest form. But that's not what we see in most cases. We see in a lot of cases, we see groups of people or teams of players that are in the same place, on the same team, doing their own thing, thinking about or worrying about their own concerns instead of the team's goals and objectives. And there is a big disconnect between what a team is and what people and players often do. And we have been conditioned, really, in the world we live in today, we've been conditioned to think this way. We've been conditioned to think, what do I have to do today, instead of what can I do today to move the mission and objective of the team forward? What do I get to do that works towards our team's common goal really is the better way to think about things, instead of what do I have to do today, what do I need to get checked off of my list. Now, I think this next statement is a very important statement. So I want you to listen to this. A unhealthy team is task-driven. A unhealthy team is task-driven. A healthy team is goal-oriented. A healthy team is goal-oriented. This is a really important distinction. On an unhealthy team, they're just doing their job. They're task-driven. A healthy team always stays goal-oriented and goal-driven, and everyone is working in the same direction. Unhealthy teams think, what can I do to get it checked off the list? Healthy teams think, what can I do to move the team closer to reaching our goals? There's a lot of selfishness in our culture today, and we've been conditioned that way. Every person for themselves attitude is what we see in today's culture in many places. Everywhere we turn, it really is, every person for themselves, look out for yourself. And we've lost a lot of trust in the more team-oriented goals. But teams that come together are the ones that are successful winning championships, I can tell you. As a leader, we must be honest about the state of our team. It really starts with that. So I want to list 5 qualities of an ineffective team. And I want you to think about these 5 qualities I'm going to talk about as it relates to your team or the group of people that you may be leading. These are 5 qualities of an ineffective team. Number 1, a team void of vision. There is no clearly defined strategy. We don't know what a win even looks like. If that is the state of your team, you most likely are an unhealthy team. You're void of vision. Number 2, there are leaders that deflect responsibility. So if you got the attitude that it's not my fault, it's their fault, it's always someone else's fault, it's a referee's fault, in business example, it's the market's fault, it's the product's fault, whatever your excuse is, ineffective teams always deflect responsibility. You don't want that quality on your team. And for the thousands of players that have played for me and the coaches that I've coached and the players that I've coached, they have all heard me say this hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. I always tell them I don't want to hear excuses, meaning I don't want to deflect responsibility. The line that they've heard from me thousands of times is make plays, not excuses. It's one of my fundamental core lines that I tell coaches that I'm coaching and players that I've coached over the years. Make plays, not excuses. We can't deflect responsibility. Number 3, there are team members that resist accountability, meaning don't tell me what to do. I don't want to talk about it type attitude. When you have team members that have that attitude, they want to resist accountability. They don't want to talk about it. They have that type of attitude, then you're most likely a unhealthy, ineffective team. Number 4, team members that avoid conflict. If you just want to get by, stay to yourself, avoid conflict, again, this is a quality of an ineffective team. Number 5, there's leaders that withhold trust. There's not trust amongst the leadership and amongst the group of people. On a struggling team, you'll see one or more of these issues all the time, guaranteed. You'll either be void of vision, you'll deflect responsibility, resist accountability, avoid conflict, or there'll be a lack of trust, or you'll be seeing trust being withheld. So the question is this: what do we need to do, or what do we need to understand in order to solve these root issues of a struggling or ineffective team? And the answer is it starts with understanding there is a cycle going on. Identify that these qualities have crept in, one or more of these qualities or characteristics have crept in, and as a leader, we have to break the cycle. So here I want to show you this chart. If you're watching this on a video application on YouTube, you'll see the chart. If you're not, if you're listening to us on the audio version only on iTunes or Stitcher Radio, you won't be able to see the chart, so I'll do the best I can to describe the chart. But the chart is, this chart here is the cycle of an unhealthy team. You'll see up at the top of the circle, it starts out with wrong actions. You have wrong actions. People are not doing the right things. They're doing the wrong things. And when people are doing the wrong things, it will start to lead to no confrontation, meaning they will start to avoid confrontation. Once you have that, people are not taking responsibility, so the problems are never confronted. Because they're not confronted, because these problems are not confronted, they will cast blame. It's your fault, it's his fault, it's someone else's fault. That then leads to negative assumptions. And once you get to there, people are saying once you get to that negative assumptions part of the cycle, no one really cares. We can't improve. We can't win anyway. The other players are bad. You've got all these negative assumptions and opinions now that has crept in, which leads right back to the top, more wrong actions. That is a cycle of a struggling team. It begins with wrong actions, then they avoid confrontation. It leads to casting blame elsewhere, and then leads to negative assumptions and negative opinions, and right back to wrong actions. That is the cycle of an unhealthy team. As a leader, we have to break the cycle. So how do we do that? Well, we break the cycle with productive confrontation. And so how do we do that? Well, let's look at this chart. This is a positive chart. Well, we want to break the cycle with productive confrontation. When there's wrong actions, we want to confront the wrong action in a productive manner. The key word here is productive. We want to confront in a productive way. We do it with the right attitude. We confront with the right spirit. And it all starts with that attitude, the way we confront the issue or the wrong behavior. And we need our team to start accepting responsibility, meaning, okay, I accept that it's my fault or partially my fault, and I can do better. I can work harder. I can have a better attitude. We are all in this together, and we're all on the same page is where we need to get and accept responsibility. And accepting responsibility then leads to positive assumptions. So now the opinions and assumptions is we can do this. I believe in this team. I believe in my teammates. We are all in this thing together. I'm focused on doing the right thing for my team. Accepting responsibility then leads to productive actions. And once we have that, now we have a more positive cycle. So we've gone from wrong actions now to productive confrontation, to accepting responsibility, to positive assumptions, to positive actions. And we've broken that cycle. So that is really important as a leader, that we get out of that negative cycle and interrupt that negative cycle. We want to interrupt it and change the cycle and get it headed back in the right direction in a positive way with a team-focused oriented direction and team-focused oriented goals. And it really starts with the ability to identify, that your team has some unhealthy qualities in it, and we need to get those things turned around before it becomes a bigger issue. But understand this, that once you identify your team is not healthy in an area, understand that you're not alone. You're not alone. That is very common. It is the majority is unhealthy. That's why very few make it to the top and win championships and reach the top of their business. Teams do not drift towards health by accident. They are shaped towards strength on purpose. I want to say that again. Winning, successful teams do not drift towards health. They don't just drift there. They are strengthened on purpose. So as a leader, you've got to be purposefully strengthening your team. And over time and over the course of a season, teams will tend to drift towards negative things and tend to drift towards laziness and tends to drift towards selfishness and tend to drift towards being unhealthy, but they won't drift towards health. So it's easy to drift towards the negative, ineffective, weak areas, but it's not going to happen in the reverse. You're not going to just drift towards strength, success, winning, and prosperity. You have to go there on purpose. Coaches always start out the first few days of a season, the first few weeks of a season, sometimes the first month or so of a season in a positive, full of energy. But a lot of teams and coaches and people will tend to drift during the course of a season, during the course of time, towards the unhealthy side. They get to the end of the year and they end up wondering what in the heck happened. We started out with this positive, energetic mission, and we ended up not where we wanted to be. And it's because it's easy to drift towards unhealth, and it's hard to purposely go towards success. So we've got to understand that. So here are a few steps to help you strengthen your team and help strengthen a struggling team if you find yourself in that situation. Number one, need to diagnose the root of the dysfunction. That's important, obviously. If we can't diagnose the root of the dysfunction, we're not going to get anywhere. We're not going to be able to push our teams towards health. You cannot change what you cannot define. So we've got to define the problem. And it's really easy to focus on the symptoms and not necessarily the root of the problem, because the symptoms are in our face. They're obvious. And it's easy to focus on the symptoms, but we need to get down to the root, and the root of what the dysfunction, the issue, or the problem is. So what do I mean by getting to the root of the problem, the difference between symptoms and roots? Well, symptoms are things that are commonly thought to be the problem. They might be something like, my business is not growing, my team is not winning, my running back fumbled the ball 3 times last week, we didn't play hard enough, we didn't play with passion, the other team outworked us. These are all symptoms. They're not the root of the problem. And so saying my team is negative and critical is not the problem. It's just a symptom of the problem. Why is your team negative and critical? Why is your team being outworked by the competition? Why is your team fumbling the ball and having turnovers? As a productive leader, we have to diagnose the root of that issue that we're having. And I've done this exercise with leaders in both the business and corporate world, as well as with coaches and football teams many times. And here's what I found. When you ask them, hey, what are your issues and what are the reasons for your issues? Here's what the vast majority always comes back to me with. They all tell me something like that points to other people or other players or outside circumstances as being the problem. On rare occasion does a leader come back to me and say, I as the leader am the problem. And that is so true. Whenever there's a problem, we tend to point the finger elsewhere, right? I mean, it's a lot easier to point the finger elsewhere. We must change that. As a leader, we have to accept responsibility. We must accept to some degree, if not often, a large part of the degree of the problem may be us. We may be the root of the problem. So let me give you an example. Let's say you have a star player, maybe your quarterback in this example. He's having some personal issues at home, and it's impacting his on-the-field play. So you could say, well, my quarterback's having issues at home, and he's not performing well, and I don't know if there's really anything I can do about it. Or do you have a part in helping your star player or your quarterback, and do you have a part in owning some of the issue? As a leader, as a successful leader, as a good leader, we should be in tune and engaged with the lives of our team members and our players, and be in a position to engage and assist. Again, it goes back to caring about and loving those who you lead. So ultimately, the root of the problem can be pointed back at you in some degree. We've got to be willing to do, what can we do to help our star player, our quarterback, in this situation to overcome some of the off-the-field issues so they can be more productive on the field. And that is really important, that we take ownership in those things and not just point the finger to outside circumstances. So to be a successful leader, always be willing to take responsibility no matter what the problem, issue, or circumstance is. Number 2, you cannot correct what you cannot confront. So it's important. You can't correct it if you're not willing to confront it. It is the right thing to confront. It is the wrong thing not to confront wrong behaviors. Really important. It's the right thing to confront, the wrong thing not to confront wrong behaviors. By letting wrong behaviors slide and just keep hoping that we'll let these wrong behaviors slide, it's just going to cause more issues. If you think that I'm just going to let it slide and hope that it doesn't cause bigger or more issues, you're fooling yourself and you're just not being a good leader. So let me give you an example. I was with a head coach here recently, very large high school, 7A school, had championship level talent. And the coach told me he had some star players that were breaking rules and not really doing what they needed to be doing, making some bad decisions, etc. And he didn't want to confront them about it because he needed to win. And these players played a big role on the team. And he said, if I confront them about it and we have issues or suspend them, then the odds of us winning without them is small, and I need to keep my job. So he was operating a little bit of fear about winning and maybe his job being on the line. So he chose not to confront these particular players. But guess what? Ultimately, he did not win. And the program, because of the lack of leadership there, became very toxic over a period of time. One thing led to the next, and it really became an unhealthy, very toxic environment around the team. And by the way, it didn't work. by not confronting the issues the right way, the coach is no longer there, the team didn't win. I mean, it's just not going to lead to a good place. So it's important that we confront bad behavior. We are not doing it to attack people. We're not attacking the player. We're not attacking the people we lead. We're doing it to address the behavior. We might have to address the person privately, but we're not going to address the person publicly. We are, however, going to address the behavior publicly and make sure that we have addressed it and everyone understands that we're not going to tolerate these types of things or these types of behaviors, that we have standards and we have high standards, and those standards must be clearly defined. But we deal with the people or the person in private and the behavior potentially in public to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So here's what we should do as a leader. We're going to take the person, we're going to offer this person a path towards improvement. Here's your path to improve. And then when they get there, we're going to celebrate with them because we care about them and we love them and we want to lead them to a better place. And so we give them the path to improvement, and then we celebrate with them once they get there and show the improvement. At some point, if they haven't improved, then we're going to have to make a tough decision to remove them. We're going to have to tell them, hey, we can't tolerate these types of decisions, these types of behaviors. We can't tolerate underperformers, bad attitudes, divisiveness, selfishness. We can't tolerate these kinds of toxic things on our team. It will tear the team apart. So clearly define those goals, those objectives, those rules, regulations, and let's make sure that we're purposely pushing our team towards being a team of health, a healthy team, one that's going to move in the right direction, or we may have to remove those people, those players, because they're not willing to be a part of the team and go towards the ultimate goal that we have set forth. So let me touch on all these big thoughts. Number one, everything rises and falls on leadership. That's number one. Know that everything rises and falls on leadership. So if you're a leader, I would suggest putting that sign on your desk somewhere or where you can see it every day and understand that everything is going to fall and rise on leadership. When things are going well, there's always a great leader. When things are going wrong, there is lack of leadership. It's that simple. So here's an exercise. Ask yourself these 3 questions on a scale of 1 to 10. So I want you to rate these 3 questions. I want you to rate them on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not good and 10 being great, or in this case, 1 being not a big problem or 10 being a significant problem. So number 1, how healthy and strong is your team, and then why? So rate, as a leader, rate your team. How healthy and strong is your team on a scale of 1 to 10? Are they very healthy, 10, or are they not healthy at all, 1, or somewhere in between? And then ask why you gave your team that rating. And here's the fun part, and the difficult part as a leader. You want to ask the people that you're leading, your team and your assistants and your players, etc., this question as well. Ask them, hey, how healthy and strong is our team? Rate it from 1 to 10. And do so anonymously so you can get an honest answer. You want to make sure that their answer is anonymous and they can be honest in the way they evaluate the question. But ask your team, your players, your assistants, and the people that you're leading, how healthy and strong is our team? Rank it or scale it from 1 to 10. You might be surprised at what they'll tell you. Here's my guess. The leader tends to score their team higher or healthier than the rest of the team. If that's the case, then there's a significant disconnect somewhere, and guess what? You have a problem that needs to be addressed. The second question is, what quality is the weakest on your team? And remember those characteristics or those qualities we laid out earlier. It could be void of vision. Your team could be void of vision. That could be a weakness of your team. It could be that your team deflects responsibility. It could be that your team or people or leaders on your team are resisting accountability. It could be that everyone's avoiding conflict, meaning that we know there's a problem, but we're not going to address it. That's a very big problem. It could be you're withholding trust. Maybe you're not extending the responsibilities that you need to extend to others because you don't trust your assistants or your players. We're not cooperating well with each other. We're competing against one another. There's some divisiveness and some selfishness. There's lack of trust. So what are these qualities, these 5 things here, what is the weakest of your team? Is it vision? Is it deflecting responsibility, resisting accountability, avoiding conflict, or withholding trust? And it's important that out of these 5 qualities, you understand maybe what's the 1 or 2 of these that the team and the people you're leading think is the weakest quality of your team. It's good to get that information and to be honest with yourself and to look at what the people you're leading are telling you. Super important that you then name the problem that's created the lack of vision, the lack of responsibility, the resisting accountability, the lack of trust. Find, those are symptoms, but dig down and find why those things are happening. Find the root of the problem. That's number 3. What is the root or the cause of these problems or issues? And that's really where the rubber meets the road. And then what are you going to do to address the root and make the correction? That's the ultimate question. Okay, we've identified the symptoms and the issues. We've dug down. We've found what we feel the root is that's caused those issues. And then what are you going to do to address it? And you might say to me, well, Coach, that's pretty complicated. Well, listen, leaders deal with complicated issues. That's what you're called to do as a leader. You may say, I'm not sure what to do. Well, as a leader, you've got to keep asking questions, keep pressing in, keep pursuing solutions, stay committed and stay focused to solve the root of the problem. Keep doing what leaders do and lead. You've been placed in a position of leadership by someone if you're a leader, so you have been identified as someone with the gift of leadership. That's why you've been put in that role, in that position. So lead. Do what leaders do. Keep pressing in. Keep asking questions. Staying focused. Staying committed to finding the root and then making the decisions to fix the issues and fix the root of the problem. And understand that we're not all perfect, but we're getting better every day. Great leaders lead their teams to where they're supposed to be and lead their teams towards strength, towards prosperity, towards success. When leaders get better, everyone underneath them and everyone on the team gets better. When leaders get better, everyone gets better. So listen, thank you for listening to today's show. Again, it was an educational program today. We really appreciate your time on the program here at the Callaway Football Network and the Callaway Football Show. We want you to do some things for us just as a quick reminder before you tune us out. Go subscribe to all of our platforms. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's the Callaway Football Network. You can go out to YouTube and just search for the Callaway Football Network and find us. And as well, subscribe to our podcast, our audio version on iTunes if you're an Apple user, or if you're an Android or a non-Apple user, you can go out to Stitcher Radio and subscribe to us at Stitcher Radio. Again, YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, and follow us on Twitter to stay engaged in what's going on around here. Our Twitter handle is @CallawayFB. Again, that's spelled CALLOWAYFB is our Twitter handle. And always leave comments on all of these platforms or just send us an email at coach@callawayfootball.com is our email, coach@callawayfootball.com. So coaches, don't forget to go out to our training center. If you're coaching a team, you'll want to get hooked up with us and become a member out at the callawayfootball.com at our website. Get logged into that training center. We have an impressive network of coaches put together, and we are the nation's #1 coaching resource for you. So go out to callawayfootball.com and check it out. So again, thanks for your time. Make sure you share the podcast or the YouTube video. Hit that share button and put it on your social media platforms. And make sure you check in next week and see what we've got for you next week. So thanks again, and as always, I hope to see you on the field soon.